All right, welcome back to the channel. Errol Spence Jr. does some soul searching and says that he believes that he was on a path of self-destruction before fate intervened. I think that's something that a lot of people had said before, but now that it came out of his mouth, let's talk about that and Terrence Crawford as well, because Terrence Crawford went through a very similar situation. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel, and thank you guys so much again for checking out another video, supporting the channel. Thank you guys so much for spending this your quarantine time with me, listening to videos that we upload every day, also the live streams, and thank you to everybody that supports the channel in the super chat and in the Patreon. Let's talk about Errol Spence Jr. and what he said in an interview that was very, I thought, man, I wouldn't say it brought tears to my eyes because it ain't that serious for me. However, man, it gave me a good, warm feeling in my heart, man, because I've told people on this channel before that I think that Errol Spence Jr. is genuinely a very nice guy. I think he's got a great family. And I root for him, not just because I think he's a terrific fighter, but because I really did early in his career and now think that he's a really good guy, man, who wants the best, who wants to be the best fighter, who wants to take care of his family. He's somebody that is a very honest and straight shooting guy about what he thinks about things, whether it's social, whether it's in boxing or whether it's like, outside of boxing, just a guy that I like a lot, man. And I like his heart. I like his will to win. And so when over the last couple fights, there had been with the Mikey Garcia fight and the Sean Porter fight, I would hear little whispers from here and there about things that were going on with Errol Spence Jr., whether it be, and I won't get into the specifics of the things that, that crossed my ear, because that's exactly what they did. They blew right by my ear. I heard, it's like people tell me about it. I say, okay, thank you. And then I just kind of go on about my business because, hey, man, I am not somebody to be in my person. I'm not somebody to be able to point fingers at Errol Spence Jr. for what Errol Spence Jr. has gone through. Trust me. So I don't, for things like that, you very rarely hear me point the finger at people. When they have, even if it's self-inflicted problems in their life. And I try my best to stick to the sport of boxing, and do that. I don't really get into like the stuff of not too much with Oscar De La Hoya or even the stuff with Sergey Kovalev, unless it's a counter example that somebody else is, when somebody else is bringing something up to me and I might use it as a counter example. But so I just, generally speaking, man, I don't really get into that because hey, man, like I do believe is important. People in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. So as far as, making mistakes as a young person with money in his pocket, I'm not going to throw stones at that. I'm not going to throw stones at him about that stuff. But it did give me concern for how his boxing career was progressing. Now, obviously, there came a point when Errol Spence Jr. had that car accident. And the car accident and I've not heard anything to the contrary, and I don't know that it is the case. So I want to phrase it like that. That was associated with, he was under the suspicion of having been under the influence of alcohol when he went through that, when he had the car accident. Prior to that, obviously, you remember Bomac was putting statements out about, a drunk ain't shit, stuff like that, that he put out there. So, it was out there. There was also stuff, related to, certain things going on within his camp for people that were part of the camp, different things like that you hear, right? So I let all that stuff go by my ear and I was wishing for the, the best to come out. But then the car accident happened and it's like, wow. That is so tough, man. Because when something like that happens, you really know that it is time, where you got to make a change. So it was really good when to hear Errol Spence Jr. talk about it. I do believe he did it on the show with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. And what he said was that he had lost focus, that he had taken a lot of things for granted, and that And by taking things, a lot of things for granted, living the high life, he was headed down a path to self-destruction. Now, what do you mean by self-destruction? I don't know what that means. Self-destruction of his career, self-destruction of his life, whatever. I don't know. But when he talked about the accident, he said, hey, when I'm looking and I wake up in a car accident, I'm paraphrasing, and that type of situation happens, you have to say, oh man, you are tripping. Okay, you need to get something right. You need to get it right now. You got to make a change. And, so he mentioned that. He also said that, he knows that now that there's an X on his back and people are coming for him. So, he has to make sure that he, adjusts to the fact that he is no longer the person that is hunting the champions. He is the champion, and he has a lot of young and up and coming fighters that are hungry like he was hungry, coming to chase for him. So he's got to get his act right. And I think that is a good situation, obviously a good situation for Errol Spence. But then not only, was he given the opportunity, what I would say is he hit his rock bottom. If you've ever dealt with somebody that has, or know people that have like major substance abuse problems, and I'm not saying that he has a major substance abuse problem. I'm speaking about this in the context of boxing and his professional life, not his personal life. There are all kind of people that get, that drink, party, eat too much, gain too much weight or whatever. And in their personal lives, and when they have money in the bank and all that, I don't think I don't think what he experienced outside of the car accident sits too far outside of the experiences of a lot of people in this country for sure. So I'm not going to say that he hit rock bottom as far as, in that regard. So when I say, but in explaining what I mean by rock bottom, I'm using example of somebody that might have substance abuse problems, and people tell them, and they're telling them, that, hey, you might be drinking too much. Look, you're this, it's causing you this problem, it's causing you that problem. But you just kind of figure like, hey, it hasn't gotten to the point where, they didn't have any choice whatsoever about changing the way that they are. So a lot of times when people have those type of issues, you really do have to step away from them at a point and let them pretty much self-destruct and get to a point in their life where there's like literally they're either going to have to solve the problem or the life as they know it is over. And sometimes when people face that rock bottom, they're looking, there's nowhere, their worst fears are realized. Either they're homeless or they're penniless, or the person that they love left them, or their family isolates them. Whatever it is that where they thought that they could never get, that feeling of hopelessness or that reality that they're living in has to outweigh whatever pleasure they got from the substance that they were taking or the things that they were doing that got them there. And at that point in time, hopefully they would be in their interest, and that they are really motivated to solve, the problems that they have. So in the case with Errol Spence Jr., hey man, I don't know of a better candidate for a situation that might lead you to think that way than, a near-death experience. Like, I'm bugging, dude. I could very well be dead. I could have lost if I'm lucky to be alive, and I would have been lucky to have been alive. Okay, I could have lost my career completely and still been lucky to just be alive. There are a lot of people who get in these accidents that things go badly. Think about Diego Corrales in his motorcycle accident, or Paul Williams in his car accident. Diego Corrales didn't get out of that. Paul Williams got out of it, but Paul Williams could never fight again, and he could never walk again. So not only did Errol Spence Jr. get past that particular, he passed, the Diego Corrales, which is the ultimate, there ain't no rock bottom, you just gone, to the Paul Williams type of situation. And I'm not saying that they were in any type of alcohol were involved in what was going on with them. I'm just saying that they had the accidents. And, the situation where Errol Spence Jr., just got his teeth bust out of his mouth. But other than that, from what I'm understanding, everything is good, right? So with him. But then to be quarantined and be put in a situation where you really are forced to have your whole life slow down, then the combination of those two things, number one, hitting rock bottom, and then having been put in an isolated situation or a quarantine situation where you can reflect on it, you know, those are not back-to-back blessings, but two back-to-back situations that allow you to hopefully get everything you need to get your mind right to move forward. And I'm certainly hoping that is what happens with Errol Spence Jr. One thing that I thought was very encouraging about that interview was the way that he looked in the interview. I have looking at Errol Spence Jr. You can tell when Errol Spence Jr. is overweight because he gains weight in his face, like everybody, most people. They gain weight in their face. And you can see it. When he was in this interview with Matt Barnes and those guys, his face it didn't look the same. It looked like he was within the weight range, closer to the way his face looks when he walks into the ring in the fight, which tells me that, you know, he's focusing on that time, you know, focusing his time and energy on that. I also would hope that he would do things like get a nutritionist. You know, I know he does a lot of things by himself, you know, get a nutritionist. So if he's going to stay at that weight class longer, you know, the food that you can eat can't be the grease, you know, the something you put in a paper bag and the grease flows through it, right? You're going to have to, you know, make that change to live, you know, to keep your body at that weight class. But I just listen to what he had to say. I thought that was really good. I also wanted to mention quickly that this is something that Terrence Crawford went through to a lesser degree earlier in his career, where, you know, he was out gambling, getting into trouble, getting into stuff, whatever. I wouldn't say trouble, but yeah, getting shot in the head, having somebody try to shoot you through a car when you're driving away. Yeah, that could be that could be considered, you know, out there, you know, looking for trouble, or at least you found trouble. And that alerted him to the fact that maybe he needs to, you know, isolate him a little bit more because his career and life was almost taken away. So anyway, it is what it is. You let me know what you think in that comment section. I'm happy for Errol Spence Jr., man. Can't wait to see when boxing comes back, what he's going to do in the ring. Anyway, it is what it is. Thank you guys again so much for your support. And I'm going to catch you guys on the next video. Peace.